debate about the introduction of genetically modified crops in Nigeria is becoming fierce. The introduction of GM crops has generated serious controversies, especially in developing countries, even though scientists have reason to its defense. Some experts say among the benefits of GM crops include increased crop yields, reduction in chemical pesticide use, and pharmaceutical and biofuel production, among others. But other scientists disagree and say genetically modified crops often disrupt the natural process of gene flow because the better traits are produced from engineering genes, which can result in the favoring of one organism. They claim it is more inclined towards the marketization of farming for the purpose of immoral profits. Joyce Brown, who is the Director of Programs at the Heart of Mother Earth Foundation, and Kabir Ibrahim, who is the President of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Let's start with Kabir here, and good to see you. And many farmers seem to understand the debate better than non-farmers. With a smile on your face, I think the better place to start will be, are you a proponent or an opposition to GMO?
I support and I embrace biotechnology that leads to the production of GM crops.
And there must be a reason, so you might want to share.
My reason, principally, is that most farming activities, or most farmers, are looked upon as poor people. They're doing subsistence farming. For us, the game changer to make the farmer prosperous is genetic engineering. The crops that are out in Nigeria today are solving two problems. The ones that are here now, the PBR cowpea and the teller maize, those are the only two that are commercially released in Nigeria. They serve two purposes. We have a deficit of cowpea or beans of about 500,000 metric tons in Nigeria as a nation. Now, because if you are conversant with beans, for instance, you know that it's attacked by so many insects, and sometimes the losses are 100%. You know, so this PBR cowpea, its name is pod borer resistant cowpea. That is that insect that destroys both the leaves, the stem, and the grain itself cannot attack it. So we get good yield by using it. Now, but we asked from the beginning, okay, is this safe for consumption? Science, good science, has shown that it is also good for consumption. And 3 years ago, I was given seeds and I planted them in my farm. I observed. I was on television. I observed the good part of it. And when it was released commercially, we did a road show in Alausa, in Lagos. I was there. There people made akara and moi moi in the Lagos area, and we ate. And today, people are asking me for those seeds. Now, what it is doing is that deficit of 500,000 metric tons is being bridged. The gap is being bridged. But of course, we have so many other things debilitating against productivity in agriculture in Nigeria. For instance, we have been talking here on insecurity, climate change, and then, of course, mechanization. We have very little mechanization and all that. Therefore, there is still a deficit. But as time goes on, the deficit will go. But I want to take you to those countries that are talking, are saying that they have, or that we know have food security. If you look at them, the most important ones are the United States, Canada, India, for instance, and Argentina. Now, in the United States, there is food security. You go around, you can take away tea, Rogers, $2, $1. Nobody complains about food there. But most of the food items are really GM. And then the advancement in science in the United States is much higher than what we have here.
All right.
So the noise that I hear, I want to really listen and get facts.
Okay, let's see if Joyce Brown will add to the noise because, well, we do. Maybe I should ask the question as to, what side of the divide you belong to. Is it pro or, anti-GMO? And really, why, if anti, why are you concerned about GMO? What is it that's so concerning about GMO?
Right, thank you so much. So we are on the side that is protecting the interests of Nigerians, and that is the anti-GMOs, and that is for a number of reasons, a whole lot of reasons. And the major one is as it affects the rights of local farmers who currently produce the food that we consume, right? So the promoters of GMOs themselves have confirmed that with GM seeds, productivity would reduce after the first planting season. And so we would have farmers going to corporations, depending on corporations, every planting season to get these seeds. That is taking away the rights of farmers, the sovereignty of farmers, the control of the seeds from the hands of the farmers who currently produce more than 80% of the food we consume in Nigeria as a country. That is one of the major challenges, the fact that we're giving over the control of our food system to corporations and not the farmers as it has been. There are also health implications that have been proven by the same science we are talking about, long-term toxicity tests that have been conducted that have shown liver problems, birth defects, immune disorders that are connected to the consumption of GMOs. And the one question that we really ask the promoters of GMOs, the government agencies that are pushing for their release in Nigeria, is that they show us the risk assessment document. Where is the proof that they have conducted enough risk assessment or any risk assessment at all that shows that would put the minds of Nigerians to rest that GMOs are safe for consumption for the Nigerian people. Those are nowhere to be found. It was because of this recent uproar that NAFDAC came out to say, oh, they're going to make these documents public. But this should have been done even before these products are released. These documents are nowhere to be found as it is. If we have researchers in the country who should have given peer review to these risk assessment documents, just so that we know that for a fact we have done due diligence before these products are released to the Nigerian environment. And there are a significant number of these GMOs that are produced to be herbicide tolerant, and this has increased the use of glyphosates containing herbicides, which there are thousands of cases in the US that we have already mentioned on this show where we say they are food secure and they are making use of GMOs. But there are thousands of cases, cancer cases against Monsanto, now Bayer, and there have been thousands of dollars that have been paid in punitive damages over because this company failed to warn the citizens of the dangers associated with using these glyphosate-containing chemicals. And by the way, these chemicals are all over our markets in Nigeria without regulation. Some of them even have NAFDAC numbers on them. Our farmers are spraying these pesticides and no one is properly regulating them. So these chemicals have implications for soil degradations, and even can wash off to contaminate water sources. If you remember the case that happened in Benue where up to 270 people died from contamination with endosulfan. So these are also implications, and we're already having issues with our export market because some of our products, including beans, are being rejected in the EU, for example, because of excessive pesticide residue. So these are some of the problems that we will encounter if we continue to go in the way of GMOs. And if we want to solve food insecurity like our government says we want to do, it would be to address challenges that farmers face. Earlier today, we had a conversation with CSOs, some of which are farmers, and they acknowledge always that the problems are not with GMOs. They don't need GMOs at all. And the solutions that they seek are better support from the government in terms of extension service, provision of infrastructure, better access to land, access to credit, all of which will help the farmers to produce better, to make healthy food available to people, to the Nigerian people. But this is not our focus. We're focusing on GMOs. And just to clarify that we are not against science, not at all. We acknowledge the role of science in technology, in medicine, and in other aspects of life. But to tamper with the food that people consume and in a way that is so shrouded in secrecy, people are not aware of what is going on, it's totally problematic and unacceptable.
All right, good, Joyce, thank you. Let's bring in Kabir Ibrahim. From where she left off, she says, this is not about science, but about tampering. So how do you feel when many like Joyce and others say you have tampered with it to the extent that they feel it become unsafe?
Well, I have to say one or two things to correct the impression that people have. What we have as GM crops in Nigeria, they are not products of cooperation. We don't have any cooperation that is bringing the GM seeds to Nigeria. We are developing GMO seeds here in Nigeria by our scientists. In fact, in Zaria, not far away from us. And the people, the professors behind the cowpea that we spoke about, are Ishaku and Radio Adamu in Zaria. What they have done is a product of science. The tampering that she's talking about in genetic engineering is also happening in genome editing. My bias is in science as it relates to the built environment, but we also do assessments to see impact on people. Yes, it is possible for people to say that there are contraindications even on drugs for medication. And it is possible for us to find certain things from what we consume, like sugar. Sugar, nobody says sugar is not to be consumed, but there are side effects for taking sugar. But sugar, as we know it today, is not classified as GMO.
So you're not denying the fact that there is likelihood that there will be side effects. But then again, it will depend on the extent or how grave, the side effects to genetically modified organisms.
What we have always interrogated and why it is released by law is that it has to be controlled and it has to be labeled. The law is very clear that if you have GM crop, you have to label it because you give the consumer a choice.
Do we have those controls effectively in Nigeria?
Yes, we do. You see, the mistake that people are making is this. About 1 year ago, the cowpea was released commercially. And the seeds are produced here. And they are using outgrowers, farmers who agree to produce seeds for them. They give them foundation seeds and they produce seeds that they will now sell to people. And that has just taken place. The GM teller maize was released commercially about 2 weeks ago. And the seeds that are available now in Nigeria are not such that in fact, the production commercially is only going to be this season. So anybody who is saying that people have taken GM crops and has got disease and all, it's probably GM crops that they have taken that probably somebody brought illegally.
Look at it this way, you said controlled. And we live in a world whereby when we talk about control, we've seen the same in the pharmaceutical world to the extent that now we're dealing with some illicit drugs. I don't know what operates in your laboratory. Sometimes it doesn't catch the eye of the regulator, Ibrahim. So that is why people are afraid that when you tamper, using Joyce's word, with some of these foods, not everyone will do the right thing. So I'll come back to you, Kabir. Let's bring in Joyce to speak more on this controlled, which it doesn't sit pretty well in the space of Joyce and those who are with her on this conversation.
Yeah, so it's important to highlight at this point that we do not trust even the regulatory process we have in place when it comes to GMOs. Because, for example, we have in that regulation that GMOs will be labeled. We haven't seen anywhere in the country where the BT cowpea has been labeled. And even if it is labeled in some places or labeled at the point where it leaves the seed companies or the government to some farmers, the beans in the market, right? The ones that were displayed in Lagos, for example, during the street walk here he mentioned, right? Are they labeled? When these beans is displayed in basins in the market, and we know most of our population buy food from open market, not in supermarkets where they are properly packaged and there's a possibility of labeling. It won't be possible for these products to be labeled. So you have that beans processed into akara, for example, and you go to your favorite akara seller by the road to buy akara. How would you tell that that is produced from GMO? And for you to be able to make a choice as to whether or not you want to consume that product. The corn, for example, the teller maize, when it is processed into ogi or pap, and you go to of course, your favorite mama put to buy it, or you buy it even in a restaurant, how would you know that you're consuming GMOs? And we know today that a lot of people rely on others to prepare food for them, which they store for a while before they consume. And so we have a system that does not allow the labeling of GMOs, which is not even being enforced in the first place. Another problem with the control we are talking about is the fact that we have on the board of the regulator of GMOs, the National Biosafety Management Agency, we have on that board key promoters of GMOs, including the National Biotechnology Development Agency. So we have a committee set up right under that agency that is supposed to examine, review, and approve applications for GMOs. And in that same committee, we have chief promoters of GMOs. That is a very clear case of conflict of interest, and we cannot trust a system like that to ensure that we have strict regulation, to ensure that we have only safe GMOs with the interests of the people that had been approved for introduction into the country. Now we have this document, a review that we have done, a survey that HOMEF conducted in 2018, 2019, and this recent one in the year 2023, and we found in our market shelves products, packaged food products that contain GMO ingredients. GM soy, GM corn are the most ingredients that we saw in them. And these are found in very common food cereals that people consume, vegetable oils, cake mixes, a lot of different products, even some imported noodles that are all over our market shelves as major supermarkets, including in Abuja. In the 2023 survey, we had the most number of GMOs in Abuja, and this 2023 survey actually revealed a 60% increase in the number of GMOs in our markets. Now, the question is, who is regulating these products that are in the market? How many people are reading these labels? Even the very enlightened people who purchase food from these highbrow markets, these supermarkets, they do not read the labels. And so people are already consuming GM products without knowing what they are consuming. And so the question of control is one that we really have no answer for. We don't know who is controlling, if it's NAFDAC, if it is NBMA. NBMA had told us that there were no GMOs in the market, even as at 2018 where we did the first survey. But we saw these products in the market, and there is no response on these products, about these products that are in the market that the Nigerian people are consuming.
Well, it's good to know that, I mean, you've done, great research, not just responding or reacting in a sentimental or, emotional manner that doesn't really make much sense. Let's bring it back to you, Kabir Ibrahim. You heard the argument, very compelling argument against, there. But when, anyone listens to you too, very compelling arguments on both sides. Now, let's even talk about some of the myths around the issue of GMO, for example. The issue of, the argument that land used in cultivating GMO, organism or products, you can't really, in a sustainable manner, reuse this land. They become incultivable, if there's any such a word. You want to help us understand truth, fact, and myth around this?
There are many things that I would say, but first let me react to anybody who says they don't trust the controlling mechanism of anything in a nation. And yes, that is wrong, because you see, they had support from the Senate, the last Senate. I think the majority leader, one Dr. Abdullahi, who is also an agriculturist, they sponsored the bill. I mean, to amend some of the MBMA components or articles in the law. We went for public hearing. they didn't come. Even the promoter didn't come. So we, as far as we are concerned, these were not really thought out things. And then as to the issue of the survey and what they have seen in the market and that is labeled, this is imported, illegally imported GM crops, because we are talking about the GM crops that are produced here and that are already in commercial, released in commercial quantities.
Yeah, it still speaks to the issue of, lack of regulation. I mean, if NAFDAC says we're not confident that this GMO foods are safe, and that NAFDAC also says it hasn't given any license to bring in GMOs,
yes,
and yet we have loads of it.
I would like to tell you. I would like to tell you this. I mean, this is a government issue, but the mandate for GM crops is not with NAFDAC. NAFDAC does not have that mandate. So the person, whoever it is, who said anything is not institutional. The thing is that
after all,
it is not shocking.
It is shocking that NAFDAC has always protected what we consume, and now when it comes to GMO, NAFDAC has no hand in it.
No, it is a member of the board of the MBMA. It is there before this thing is allowed to be released commercially. So it has its input there. But for the mandate to say it is safe or not, it does not have that mandate.
Is the same we're talking about. NAFDAC can tell us what's safe in other foods, but when it comes to GM, NAFDAC has no say. Well, it's a fine place and even a sad place to leave it tonight, because NAFDAC will have this conversation with all their stakeholders. Kabir, I'd like to thank you for your time, Kabir Ibrahim. And Joyce Brown, thank you for your time, for coming on the show.